like every time I turn around, they giving us the boot. I've been trying not to crash out like my name is Bandicoot, but I know we won't see change until we stand up for our roots. I'm just telling you the truth. I'm the voice of Philly, vouching for all of the Philly teams, and I promise we gon' get it done, I mean by any means.
And we are Uncaged Potential.
Justice from the ground up.
We are Uncaged Potential, Justice from the ground up. The goal for today is to introduce to the community what a circle is, what are the elements to a circle, what is a talking piece, what is a centerpiece, to demonstrate what it looked like so you guys can learn further and also come together as a community. We got our co-host Nino, and we got Ghani joining us to guide us through that process. Ghani, can you introduce the circle for us?
Yes, thank you so much, y'all. So my name is Ghani, and today we're going to be talking about circle processes, right? This circle is about how to introduce circle processes to other people. We're going to be talking about restorative justice. We're going to be talking about transformative justice, healing justice, but circle processes in general, because circle processes ain't just used for addressing like a harm or something that happened. You could also use it just to circle up to build community, update the community on stuff, resolve disputes. It could be used for a celebration, a commemoration, or anything. You could use circles for a number of things. We're just going to learn some basics about circle processes, things you might want to use for your own family. All our families might need a circle process. I know my family need a circle process. You know what I mean? And so just giving you some tools on how to do this. Hopefully by the time we end, everybody will have like at least a working knowledge on how to be a circle keeper or keep a circle, just basic. Not saying you ain't gonna have to do more homework on your own, you're gonna have to, but just basic, right? And so pay attention to everything, because I'm gonna come back after every segment and ask you, what did you notice? What did you notice? So you can run it back to me and we'll put it up on the flip chart. How's that sound, y'all? Cool, all right. In a lot of indigenous societies, an item is used or process is used for keeping the conversation disciplined, slowing it down, and making sure all voices are heard. And the talking piece is any kind of item that has meaning, all right, can have meaning for the person that's keeping the circle as well as meaning for the circle. Today, I'm going to use this rock that somebody gave me, and on this rock is written the words Namaste. Namaste is, you hear a lot of people that practice yoga say this, like especially at the end of the process. Namaste is a Sanskrit term and is used as a greeting. And it literally means, you know, I bow to you, but it means I bow to the soul in you, the divine in you, right? And I thought this would be good to use as a talking piece. Hopefully we can see the divine in each other, right? And it's as a greeting. And so I'll pass it around with the microphone. The microphone is only so that you could be heard, but this is the actual talking piece, right? And so we're introducing the talking piece. Now here's what's going to happen. The talking piece moves only clockwise. Only the person that's holding the talking piece is speaking. And it slows the conversation down, because as you waiting for the talking piece to make its way around to you, it's giving you time to think and reflect and be thoughtful about what you're going to say, right, to advance the process forward.
All right, so just to introduce myself again, I'm Brett Christopher. What I brought, well, let me introduce the centerpiece first. Right here we got in the middle what we call a centerpiece, where we place an item or object that represents our values. It can be a photo, it can be a piece of jewelry, an item of clothing, it can be big or small. Rue, start us off with a drum, and I'm gonna go and add mine. Yeah. So for my item, I was gonna go with the straw hat that represents dreams and moving forward in life, but when I was in the house, I realized I seen this, and it's a best friend forever ring. I don't know if y'all familiar with SpongeBob. Yeah, but it was a gift given to me from someone I care about deeply, but it's no longer in my life. And this ring represents care, having care with your peers, and being able to see the signs when something isn't completely going right, and giving your people grace, even in spaces where you feel like you deserve it in return. All right, so I'm gonna sit that right here.
On a personal level, it was bought because I like art, You know what I mean? I'm very much into African culture because I'm African, Akibulani, and I bought it for somebody. You know, our relationship is not what it was before, so this was something that was left behind. But I feel like it fits, you know, restorative processes because the drum was always a way for us to connect. Like, we would communicate with each other over miles based off of the drum. Like, our folks wouldn't have no verbal communication, and the drum would tell you everything that they were trying to express individually and as a group. So the drum was always a connector, so I didn't feel like it was left behind. It was just left for more circles.
Oh, hi, I'm Gabby. What I brought is like a picture of me and my cousin. I know like we're supposed to bring something that ties to our values. My cousin actually is a person that I embody to be more like. Definitely like my sounding board. And also more so just like in seeing him how he like continues to fight on the inside, as well as like I think is one of the greatest mediators ever, as well as just like sharing values and also teaching me new values to live in each day. So.
I'm Jordan, and I brought a picture of me and my best friend from when we went to the summer camp. Friends were always really important to me because I never had a big family growing up, and I always felt alone. So when I met him, he just taught me a lot of things, and he taught me that it was okay to be alone. So he just holds a really special place in my heart.
My name is Anahi. I brought a ball. The reason I brought a ball is because I'm a very quiet, well, I wouldn't say quiet, but I'm like a very shy person. And recently I just been trying to work on that, whereas though I will be like putting myself out there more, so like kind of like throwing more attention towards myself. So.
I'm Nino. I brought my watch because I feel like we spend all our time either chasing our purpose or pursuing it as best as we can.
When I was on the inside, I saw this documentary about pottery making. And I had no idea pottery or earthenwares or things that you make out of clay is actually better for your health. It reduces cancer or chances of cancer. It captures the nutrients of the food better. It eliminates a lot of oils. It introduces a lot of iron and phosphorus and stuff into your foods. Made me appreciate what our ancestors used to, do from cooking with these things. So I told then she was my fiance, now she's my wife, about what I had learned. And she was in a clay making class at the time. And she had just started, and the first thing she made, and you can see this looked like something somebody made for the first time, was a cup for me. I wasn't even out yet, and she said, I made you a cup so that you could drink your first shot of tea with when you come home. I bring that here today to bring to the circle for adaptability and for returning to our roots and doing things that in this circle, especially that's more good for our health and well-being.
My name is Rodney, and I brought my nephew. He back there. So he's not currently in, he's back there playing, but I brought him because I value him not only because he's my nephew, but because he's a Black boy who will be a Black man someday, and he's a part of my motivation and my drive. And part of the reason that I continue to stay grounded in this work.
I changing that, John. My name is Anwar, and I brought my the case for my glasses. I value that because before I got my glasses, I was blind. I felt vulnerable all the time. When I got my glasses, I remember walking out of the store, and it was like a whole new world. Like I was staring at trees, reading signs from down the street. I felt like a different person. So I value my glasses.
My name is Amina, and I brought Narcan. I keep this box in my car. I never really had parents as a kid growing up because of drugs, and you all know where we're at right now. and like what it does to the community. So I just thought it was something that I could bring that showed something that impacted me and continue.
Thanks everybody for building this circle piece with us. Again, we're Uncaged Potential, Justice from the Ground Up. Let's jump into this circle. Can anybody think of a moment or a time where you had a transformative moment in your life where you realized maybe I gotta do something differently, or maybe this moment was very impactful for me and I want to reflect on it?
I got a lot of those moments. One of the most major ones was like sitting in a courtroom and hearing English and not knowing what it meant, and my life is in a balance. And like that was like a real impactful moment, not so much even for the space I was in. It was just like, I don't never want to be in a space where I don't know what's going on or I can't figure it out. Sitting in that space and people are speaking English, like it's English, you know what I'm saying? And your life is what they're talking about, and you don't have the words, you don't understand some of the stuff, you don't know when to cut them off, you don't know how, you don't really know where you at, you just sitting in there. I mean, at least that's how it felt to me. So like that was one of those moments where I was like, I'm never gonna be in a space when I ain't in a know, or I can't figure it out right then and there. I hear you, but it's nothing I can do about it. You know what I mean? So that was the time when I just told myself I'm never gonna be in a space like that again.
We're gonna pass it to the left. We keep moving forward always. If you don't have nothing to share, you can pass it to the person next to you, and vice versa, and we're gonna bring it back around.
I think a moment for transformation, I think for internal transformation for myself, I'm not old, but being older, I think going through a process of understanding like that my actions actually do like have an outcome. And I think sometimes like being young, I really didn't think about that. It was like more so like I'm just like acting out of just wanting to act off of emotion. But I think sitting down one time, a moment happened where I hurt my little brother's feelings really badly, and my little brother's like my baby. So I think that made me sit back to say like, hey, the actions that you actually like do actually like have an effect on other people. And that kind of taught me to be like, all right, Gab, think before you talk, think before you act. Of course, we're not perfect people, but I think that really seeing how it affected like my little brother made me like really be like, all right, Gab, you need to get it together. But yeah.
Probably one time when I was arguing with one of my close friends at the time, and after we were arguing for a while, I realized that she didn't really care to see my side. Like, she didn't care that she was hurting me. She just was like, oh, I didn't do nothing wrong, so it don't matter to me. And me being alone for so long and her being my friend for so long, I just felt like I needed that relationship, like I needed her. But I slept on it, and I just realized that she was just such a negative person in my life, and she was the reason I was so upset all the time and overthinking stuff. And she helped me learn to let go, and that I'm the people that are around me. If I continue to be around negative people, I'll forever be a negative person.
So growing up, I always been like a runner. I would run away from home. I would run away from my problems. I feel like that was cool up until like I got older and I had kids, and I wasn't able to run away from my problems. I wasn't able to run away from my kids. I couldn't just, like ignore my kids. So I kind of had to like reflect on myself and like acknowledge like everything that's going on around me. So
I had came home in 2021, and for about, I say almost 3 years, I say into 2024, around the summertime, I wasn't feeling myself. I didn't feel like my old self before I got locked up till after. And then I just realized one day sitting in the house, like, can't keep doing this to myself. You feel me? It's like, that's why I brought the watch, like, spend my time how I want it to be spent. You feel me? Instead of dwelling on other things that I can't control, go control something.
I was a runner too. That's how I got to Philly, ran away from home. And I used to live in Brooklyn, New York in 1987 and made it all the way here and got in trouble. And my mom's first visit with me, I think I was down Youth Study Center at the time. She brought 3 books: the autobiography of Malcolm X, the autobiography of Nelson Mandela, and a book called Kafir Boy by Mark Mathabani. And reading the autobiography of Malcolm X by Alex Haley, that was the beginning of my transformation there. I think Malcolm probably was a model for all of us behind the walls of how to transform and redeem yourself. And so that was my transformative moment. Every turn of the page of that book set me on the path to becoming who I am today. Yeah, I would say.
I would say like my first, like the last 2 years of me being incarcerated. Well, my mom, she has 4 sons, and I'm the oldest boy, so I had 3 younger brothers. And I just felt like, I had to change my life for them, because I know I'm the one that they look up to, and is guiding them. So I feel like that's when I started to I felt like it was time to make a transition, and also as I learned and gained knowledge about different things, that's when I started to realize that it was time to make a difference.
As an older brother, I realized it was time for me to make a change. When I felt like I was thrown into that older brother position abruptly, because my older siblings, they kind of on with their ways, and I felt like I was left on the front line, and I ain't really had no pointers, and I didn't really know much to do. So I realized I had to make the change for my younger siblings, because I was really the only one there they looked up to, still look up to. And I felt like I wasn't doing enough. I still kind of feel like I'm not doing enough. So I feel like I'm still in the process of that change.
My time for me was probably the day or morning of my arrest, I guess. I remember just a woman telling me what my charge was, and I was going to be direct filed, and everyone basically throwing their hands up and not wanting to be a part of the situation anymore, because the state troopers would just take me to the adult jail. And just regardless of my charge, just realizing that stuff is not a game. People won't go out of their way to help you sometimes. And if you want to change things, and if you want things to look different for you, then you need to change your perspective and fight to change others' perspectives and gain their perspectives as well.
Thanks everybody for sharing. I know for me, my transformation moment was, I think it was sometime, I want to say 2018. I woke up one day and I was like, I'm not satisfied with what we're doing right now. I'm not satisfied with where I'm at with my life. And I was like, how can I get out of that? How can I push myself forward and stop sulking in what happened to me and start being a solution so the things that occurred that I felt was unfair won't happen to more youth in the future. So I think that was the transformation for me. Again, thanks everybody for sharing. I love to hear y'all story. We're gonna have Ghani lead us in this activity where we talk about our values. Can y'all pass this down to Ghani?
So a part of opening up a circle in the right way, we generate our values that we're going to all agree on, that's going to hold this conversation, that's going to govern this conversation, and we lay out our guidelines for the conversation and we agree on it, so that when we take that deep dive, we do it in a way that we all agree on, right? So if there's any deviation, during the process, we always can say, look, this is what we agreed on. You know what I'm saying? So who can give me a definition of value? What is a value?
I can go ahead. So a value is almost like a standard we hold ourselves to. So your value can be loyalty, it can be family, your value can be friendship, it can be love, passion, whatever you want it to be, but it's something that reminds you of who you is and the principles you stand on.
That's right. Let's throw out some values, right, that we want to govern us in this process, right? Matter of fact, We could either popcorn it or we could keep it disciplined and just pass this around. I'm gonna put mine up first, Rodney. Empathy.
Honesty.
Honesty.
Respect.
Hold on. Respect. All right.
Tolerance.
Tolerance.
I'm gonna go with what I put in the middle. Care.
Care.
Just be thoughtful. Mindfulness.
I'll say transparency.
Transparency.
Patient.
Being open-minded.
Honor.
Honor. I put awe. I like awe. And y'all might have some additional ones if you know that you want to add to it.
Diversity.
Diversity. Okay.
And I'm gonna hit us with the last one. We're gonna go with fun. I value fun above anything.
We have here empathy, honesty, respect, tolerance, care, mindfulness, transparency, patience, open-mindedness, honor, awe, diversity, resilience, fun. Those are the values that we agreed on. Is there, and you would ask, is there any that you think is missing that you want to add, and give everybody a chance to add some more? You know what I'm saying? And you would also ask, is there anything that was said here that you need further elaboration on, that you wonder why the person said it, right? So let's try that. Is there any value up here you're curious about, you wonder why the person said that, what they meant by that? Well, we'll suspend the talking piece for now. Just awe. Okay. Awe. This was in a chapter in a book by Father Greg Boyle. He started the largest gang intervention group in the world called Homeboy Industries, and it was in his book, Barking at the Choir, about radical kinship. And awe, he talked about awe as an important value for building community, being in awe of what all of us have to carry rather than be in judgment of how we carry it. Because everybody in here is carrying something, done been through something. And it's easy for us to judge how we each other carry our burdens, when we really should be in awe about what we have to carry, you know what I'm saying, and that we still standing. And so I want to just bring awe, that admiration and that awe for everybody in this space. And so, is there anything anybody else want to know why the person said it?
Can I just add something?
You can add, of course. What you want to add?
Wisdom.
Wisdom. Yeah, that shouldn't even be missing up here. Right? That's definitely a value. Be always wise. Right? Tolerance. You said tolerance. You want to say more about why you said want tolerance to be a value for us?
So I said tolerance because basically, like Gordon was saying before, perspectives is something that is really important to me. And like being able to understand where someone is coming from with what they're saying in the context of what they're saying and tolerate that from their view is important to me, if that makes sense.
Hold that, Nino. So these are our values. This is what we agreed on. And you know, we'll put them up here as a reminder so we could always look at them to see what we agreed on and make sure we govern ourselves this way. Now, these are restorative justice guidelines or guidelines for circle processes. So I think we all understand what listening with the heart and with respect is. You know, try to really feel what the person's saying. That's where the empathy comes in. And with respect, speaking from the heart and with respect, respecting the talking piece, it don't just mean like you respecting the actual item, but respecting the person that's holding the item, respecting the speaker, right? Honor confidentiality is really important because a lot of times in a circle, we're going to share some personal stuff about ourselves. We feel that this is a safe space. We could trust each other. What's said here is not for the streets. It stays here. And there's like a mantra that I like to use, and a few other people I know like to use, and it's stories stay, lessons leave. Stories stay, lessons leave. So the stories, the details that we sharing about our life, that stays. We go to the grave with that. That's not for taking back to nobody. But the lessons, the wisdom, the principle, you know, that we get from it, that's what we take with us and we share. The wisdom that we learn from it, but not the details that people share about some personal stuff If they feel safe enough and trusting enough to share some personal stuff in this circle, we don't betray that. That stays here. The story stay, but the lesson, the wisdom of it leaves, right? Remain present. That don't mean like if you got to get up to use the bathroom, you can't get up to use the bathroom. It ain't like that kind of oppressive situation. But being present meaning like, if we're in a circle, you ain't gonna be scrolling through TikTok and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? You're gonna be present. Now, unfortunately, we wasn't able to print up our guidelines, so you might see me going to the phone to look at what our guideline and Brit too. But that's all we're doing. We ain't on YouTube or nothing like that, or texting or nothing like that. But we present. We want to be present. So listening with the heart and with respect, speaking from the heart with respect, respect the talking piece, honor confidentiality, remain present. Can we agree on those as guidelines?
100%.
All right.
And right quick, one thing I will add and will say, as y'all know, we're being filmed right now, so confidentiality is something that goes through in all circles, but for this moment, we're gonna make an exception. Anything you want to share or don't want to share, be mindful of that and think of like how you want to present yourself, because it's going to be on YouTube and a few other places. So if you don't want nobody in your business, maybe don't share too much.
Right.
And let's respect what other people share as well. We won't be judging nobody. We won't be making no faces, no nasty body language. We going to have an open, safe space. Ghani, back to you.
And if it's something that thanks Britt for lifting that up. If it's something that you really want to share, like you really want to share with the group, like you need our support, but it's sensitive, it's personal, we could always ask you, to like stop recording for a second, right? And we could go off the record and we could deal with that, right? And then we could come back on and continue. We could do that if we need to do that with each other, all right? So there you have it. Now, but that's one way of generating the value. We did the guidelines, but as far as the values, that's one way of generating the values. Let's try this other way. You can also do this for generating the values for your circle. You got the plate. Grab your paper plate from under your chair. So take your marker, right, and really think about it and write in big letters so that everybody could see, because we're going to put it down on the ground, a quality that you feel as though you would like to embody or like to exhibit or personify when you're at your best self, right? So when you're at your best self, it's a quality you want to embody. Think of an important quality that you have when you're at your best. When you feel like you're at their best, what's that quality? I'm going to pass the talking piece around and we're going to invite everybody to share, to say a little something about, share the quality that you wrote down and talk about what it means to you, right? And I'm going to set that off to model it. And you're going to do it with the talking piece. And then after you're done explaining it, we're going to put it as part of the centerpiece, right? This was all a part of opening the circle the right way, and it's another values generating activity. So what I got, and sorry I didn't write it big enough, it's kind of long, so the self-examination. That quality more than anything has helped me to grow into the person that I am today, just being able to look at myself and check myself, like look at myself, especially at the end of every day, play my day back, conversations. Did I respond to this the right way? Did I offend anybody? Did I disrespect anybody? Do I owe anybody an apology? Did I answer text? Did I ignore anybody? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm always to a flaw, because sometimes it could be very stressful. But I do think it has helped me to self-regulate, to self-regulate myself on the inside, being able to check myself, self-examination.
I was having a hard time, y'all. I don't know why I was having a hard time, but so I said outspoken. I feel like that's a quality I have when I'm my best self, and I realized that. Yeah, that's it. Just outspoken, and I feel like what I mentioned.
I root kindness, because when I feel like I'm my best self, I'm at my most giving. I feel like, yeah.
I did safety, and I kind of meant that in the sense of like comfortability and stability. I like people feeling like they're good around me, and I think that's something that everybody deserves, to have a space like that.
All right. I went with humble. In the words of Kendrick Lamar, sit down, be humble. But in reality, I know for me, sometimes I can come across as a little too much or a little arrogant or something that my personality do that make people feel like I'm trying to be something more than what I am, which is who is to say what I am, right? But I try to carry myself in a humble mindset and be mindful of that.
I said healing and understanding. Probably understanding and healing is probably going the other way. At my best, I'm somebody that like to serve. I don't necessarily just look at first I thought it was like people pleasing, but then I started realizing like, why does looking out for people or helping people have to have a negative connotation? Like, because of the world that we live in is so upside down that we telling people not to be nice, not to be caring. We blame them for being good people. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody else is being engineered and orientated to be so negative. So I think I've had a real ability to be very understanding with people in a lot of different ways. And that leads to me helping them get to whatever is next, whether it's safety, whether it's some level of information, whether just companionship. And I know that those are things that we be missing. And, you know, when you pour it back into somebody, I think that's healing. You know what I mean? So understanding leads to healing. So when I'm at my best, I'm very, very sensitive and understanding, empathetic.
Just want to put on the record that Rue stole mine. It's like I'm joking. But I put love and understanding. So I think at my best self, and honestly where I try to function from is a heart of love. But I think also in doing that, I learned that everybody likes to be loved a certain way.
I wrote giving to others because when I'm at my best self, I feel very mentally wealthy. I have a lot to give. Like whether it be advice or just my presence, I feel happy when the people that I love are happy. And I feel like without them, I wouldn't be happy in the first place. So why not return the favor? Because I love how it feels to be happy.
So I put comfortable, but now that I think about it, I feel like it's more like understanding. In a way, I'm not a judgmental person, and like I be understanding, like, you know, stuff be happening. You might, I guess, like make certain decisions, and I'll be open to that. Like I understand where you're coming from. So
the quality I put was knowledge. I feel like you can never have too much knowledge, and I always love to learn. Feel me? And there's things that I don't know how I learned them or have the knowledge of them, but I know what they are or different things about them.
These qualities that you wrote down about yourself, that you feel you embody most when you're at your best, these are the foundation, or going to be the foundation of our circle process. And the circle process is designed to help everybody, all the participants in the circle, be their best self, all right? Whether it's we're doing a circle to resolve a harm, it's designed to help the harmed person be their best self, or the person who caused the harm be their best self in that moment, and everybody else there be their best self, right? And so we bring our best to this process. The last question would be, before we open it up to go into the next part of our conversation, which is going to be, can restorative justice be used to address harms in a better way than the prison system? All right, I'm quite sure. I'm quite sure we're all on the same page with that, but it's still good to hear each other's perspectives on it. But the next question before we get to that is, what has it been like to use the talking piece? All right, what advantages do you see about using a talking piece to have a circle conversation? Right, I'd really like to hear what your thoughts are about that. And it doesn't have to be all positive. You can also share about what you might not like about using the talking piece. So I'll go last.
So I would say, well, the obvious one mic, one voice. So it basically avoids conflict, or any situation that could cause people to have conflict. And I also feel like it's structure. Yeah, and I love structure.
I feel like it kind of forces peace in a way and silence, and I like that. Like I could talk, and I can hear my thoughts, and everybody's quiet. I don't got nobody trying to talk over me, so I like that about the talking piece.
I pretty much have the same thing to say positively and like, you know, just keeping the conversation on one track and easy to follow. But what I do dislike is that sometimes it's easy to forget something. If you like want to respond to something someone says, it's really easy to forget something like that. And it's also a bit formal, which is difficult for me.
I second everything everyone else said, but I'm gonna have to go with, I like how this talking piece feel. It's like nice and soft. You can tell this is a quality stone. Nah, being honest, you can tell the stone. Y'all see it.
So, I haven't said my name yet. I thought about that. So my name is Drew, and I'm saying it like that to make sure that everybody is Jeru. Jeru. Nah, definitely never that. But you made me think about something about texture, and I'm a facilitator myself. I'm aware of the process, but that's something I'm going to take into consideration, like how it feels to folks. You know what I'm saying? It can have a great meaning. All of that good stuff visually is good, but I never really thought about how it feels in folks' hands as they move around a circle. One of the things that I always say about the talking piece is it's empowering. You know what I mean? And it's a major part of making a circle a safe space. So it's like it helps change culture, you know, because Ghani was explaining how in different cultures they do it differently. It's a funny thing that like in our culture we're trained to respond, so we're not listening. Usually person get 2-3 words out, we already thinking about what our response is, so you're not hearing nothing, and that's a cultural thing for us. So the talking piece kind of helps, and you know when we utilize restorative justice in circles and stuff, it kind of helps us change culture. You know what I mean? So, but my main thing is it empowers everybody that get to talk with it.
I would say like the thing that I love about it is definitely that it does give like everybody a chance to talk. I think one thing that I think about is like when it's being passed around and it's right next to me, I'm like, oh snap, it's coming to me. So, but yeah, other than that, like I really enjoy it.
I do think the talking piece is very empowering just because when I get it, I know everybody's going to look at me and y'all hearing what I'm saying and y'all seeing what I'm saying. So I know y'all really, really hear me. And it's good to know that people are paying attention and, you know, making eye contact with me when I speak.
I get a little nervous sometimes because y'all looking at me.
To go along with what Jeru said, he said it gives you patience, because I'm a person that likes to anticipate what somebody's going to do or figure out what they're going to do before they do it. So it gives you patience.
Now, we usually do this a little different. We usually break it out in shorter segments so you can remember more. And we done did a lot since then, and so I don't know if you remember everything that we did, but this part is important because we want you to just, you know, be able to walk away with some type of knowledge about how to keep a circle if you need to. You know what I'm saying? You might be trying to resolve a beef, you know what I'm saying, or just some family stuff like we talked about, or just trying to circle everybody up to pour praise on somebody. Some, you know, might be a little man. Little man might have got a good report card, and everybody want to circle up and just pour praise on him. You know what I'm saying? And so it's a process for doing that. And so I'm going to ask everybody, we're going to suspend the talking piece for now, right? Now we're just going to popcorn it. Go back to when we first started this circle, right? What's the first thing you know? What's the first thing we did to open up this circle? What is the first thing we did to open up this circle? Gabby?
The first thing we did in this circle was open it up with the sound bowl.
Did we do this? That's what we did, right?
Yeah, we did open it up.
Right. I forgot. Sound bowl, yes. So listen, the sound bowl is just something a gentle way of calling everybody to attention or assembly. You could come up with something else. Sometimes it's little bells. You know what I mean? You might not want to do something too jarring. It's just a gentle way of doing it. But we did the sound bowl. That's good. So we called everybody to attention, right, Gabby, with the sound bowl. So that's how we call to assemble, right? You mark the beginning of the circle. What after the sound bowl, what did we do?
We introduced ourselves.
Did we introduce ourselves at that point?
Yes. It was around that time.
It was around that time, right? But I think it was some stuff we did before we introduced ourselves, before we introduced our names.
The icebreaker we did.
Remember, Britt let everybody know what we're about to do. You know what I'm saying?
We introduced the space.
You introduced the space. Britt introduced themselves, then and Nino, and then you introduced me. But everybody didn't introduce themselves yet. And then we did the breathing. Didn't we do the breathing next?
Deep breath, yeah.
Deep breath and the reflection, the grounding. You know, we grounded the circle with the person next to you, right? And then what we did next. See, I'm helping y'all out right now. Y'all supposed to be telling me.
You know this, Rod. This your part. What we do after we held?
So we introduced the circle keepers. The circle keepers. We introduced the circle keepers, right? We introed.
I remember what we did. I just don't remember the order. So we sat down and we hit the circle, right?
Right. So after we introduced the circle keepers, we did the breathing. Right. Breathing, and the person next to you, right? Breathing.
We held hands.
And
the person next to us.
Reflection, right? So that was the grounding, right? We'll just put grounding. We grounded everybody. And then we did, we held hands, right? And that was also a part of the grounding,
exercise.
Right? We held hands, formed circle. We held hands and formed a circle, and we each talked about what we think about when we think about a circle of people, right? What else?
After that moment, we introduced the talking piece.
Introduced the talking piece. Is that correct? Anybody see it going different?
Yeah, right before the talking piece, yeah. And for anybody wondering what we doing right now, guys, these are the elements of a circle. This is the stages, if you will, that we're walking through right now.
Right, and if you can remember this, then you'll know, you can remember how you can open up a circle too, right? So we introed the talking piece, then we did what?
We introduced ourselves.
Introduced ourselves and the centerpiece and our item, right? Is that how we did it, Gabby?
Where did the person next to you go in there?
The person next to you after the breathing. Right. We introed the talking piece, and then we introduced us. We went around and everybody introduced themselves and introduced their item into the centerpiece. We set up the centerpiece, right? Then we did the activity. We did the activity, right? We did the activity. We answered the question about transformation, right? We we generated our values, guidelines, right? And the quality that we feel we embody most when we're at our best self.
Our best, and we added that to the centerpiece to further build that community.
Yeah, that's important, build a community. So when you're dealing with harm and you're bringing people in a circle after they done either violated each other or one got violated by another, it's really sensitive. Even if you spent like weeks preparing them to come together, it could be triggering, sitting across from somebody that did something vicious to you, right? You have to spend the time. A lot of the time is spent opening the circle in the right way. You can't just plunge people into a discussion. All right, let's start talking about what happened. No, you can't do that. You have to take the time, and sometimes it might take 45 minutes to an hour, doing everything that we just did, breathing, reflection, the person next to you, which is about preparing everybody to be in a relational space with each other, generating values. Like, this is what we agreed on, right? So things ain't gonna get crazy in this circle, right? This is what we said we agreed on, being honest, respectful, tolerance. We said we agreed on the guidelines. That's the purpose of all of that. You said this is how you are when you're your best self, right? You said you respect, we respecting the talking piece. All of that is about opening the circle in the right way. Now, when that's done and we feel like we're ready to be in community, then we get into this sensitive stuff about the meat and potatoes of why we're here. Now, if it's about like we do with Healing Futures, we're dealing with serious cases, assaults, stolen property, all that kind of stuff. In Nashville, Tennessee, the Rafah Institute, they used restorative justice diversion for a homicide case. That was the first time they ever used, that we know of on record, that restorative justice diversion was effectively used to divert a homicide charge from a young boy. Matter of fact, if you look at HBO Max's Justice USA series, episode 6 is about that case, and they show a little bit about the circle, right? He was 13 at the time. It was a vehicular homicide, right? But it was still a homicide. Somebody sold him a car for $80, and he crashed into a man at a car at a stoplight, killed a man. And the family, fortunately, the judge, she had read about restorative justice. She believed in restorative justice, and she referred the case to the Rafah Institute, which is a restorative justice diversion program. And they brought the family together after a lot of preparation. They brought them together in a circle like this. And the family, they was like, look, you took a good man from us. You took a good man from this world. To the young boy. He came there with his mom. The least you could do, what you owe us, is to be a good man yourself. They didn't ask for prison. They didn't ask for, you know what I'm saying? They said, you owe us to grow up and be a good man yourself. And he never went to prison. He's still out. He's 17 now, doing very well. But can you imagine the time that it took to open that circle in the right way? You're talking about somebody's loved one was killed. They loved their dad. You know what I'm saying? This was a very close-knit family, but they were a spiritual family, a very generous family, but still, that was a hole torn into their family. That was their dad. He was beloved. So you come in a circle, like, to talk about something like that, you have to take the time to open the circle in the right way and make sure everybody's ready to get into this subject, you know what I'm saying, which is a real sensitive issue. So just give you an idea of, what we did. Think about what we did so that when you open up a circle or when you do a circle, you can do these things too, right? And so now for part 2, I don't know how much time we have left, Gabby. We got about 20 minutes. This circle is going to be talking about restorative justice as an alternative to incarceration, especially for young people, right? Let's talk about that. Now, with Healing Futures, the district attorney would send the cases of young people who had caused harm. Once the young person, we meet with them and they enrolled in the program. Over the course of, say, 8 weeks minimum, we would prepare them to come face to face with the person that they'd harmed. Right? It could be robbery, assault, theft. They weren't letting us do gun cases yet, drug-related cases or sexual assault cases. Certainly not homicides, but we're hoping to change that. And once they're ready, and we're also preparing the person harmed, if the person harmed agreed to participate, that would be ideal. Everybody would come together in a circle like this at what's called a Restorative Community Conference, or RCC. Gabby was at one, right? In fact, I think Collective Climb do their processes right here in this room, in the circle around this same rug. And you would have the person harmed and their main supporters there, the responsible youth and maybe his mom there with him, 2 restorative justice facilitators, and 2 community members. The community members would be people who weren't directly impacted by the harm, but they care about what's going on in the community, especially with the young people. Everybody would get a chance to share, so the young person would get to hear, as the talking piece go around, that young person would get to hear how their actions impacted that person. That person would get to tell him to his face, like, this is what you did to me, and this is how you impacted me in my life, right? Whether it was an injury or a property or whatever the case may be. Then the young person will get to hear from their own mother how their actions kind of like disgraced their family and boom, 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 and this and that, and hear from the community members too. And then everybody would hear from the young person an apology that the young person had prepared over the course of the 8 weeks. They would get to offer that. And then after that, people would break. We might eat, break bread, because eating is a part of it. You know, we got to eat together. You know, that's part of the culture. You know what I'm saying? Right? And then come back, and Gabby will tell you, Gabby was a part of this process. Everybody would huddle up and come up with a plan, what's called a restorative plan for how this young person is going to repair the harm and make things right with that person, with their family, and with the community. We'd come up with a concrete plan. So like, for instance, in one case, and I think this was the one you were at, Gabby, in one case, the person harmed, she wanted these young boys who had assaulted her on a City Hall train station to volunteer for 4 hours a week for 6 months at an organization that helps people to heal from violence. One young boy, he put in 7 hours a week of his own volition, and he stayed on in that organization as an ambassador on their youth committee, doing neighborhood cleanups and everything. He turned 6 months. Now, after the 6 months, we let the district attorney's office know, look, he completed the program, and so the charges are declined as if the charges never existed. No criminal record could come later on and sabotage this young person's ability to get employment, get an apartment or something, or get a college education. And then we have a community celebration for each case. Not celebrating that some young person got off soft for committing some harm, but celebrating our capacity to resolve our own trespasses against each other as a community without handcuffs and cages on our young people. You dig what I'm saying? And that boy, now he's into culinary arts, he's doing computer programming. We got video of him marching on 52nd Street against gun violence, so he found his activist voice. He's becoming a leader, and this would not be the outcome if he had went to the courts and been thrown in the dungeons, right? Been another wasted life, right? And so that's just an example of restorative justice diversion. So I'm gonna open it up to the group. Based on what we talked about today and what we learned about circle processes and what I just shared about how one restorative justice diversion program operates, how do you feel about restorative justice being used to address harm as an alternative to cases going to the courts, as an alternative to going to prison? And let me just say, I don't like the word alternative. I'm just using it for lack of a better term, because on the clock of human evolution, prisons and courts just popped up in the last microsecond. We've been addressing harm this way for millennia, since time immemorial. So this is the standard. Prison and the court and the carceral system and the criminal punishment system, that's the failed alternative. This is the standard that we're trying to bring back to the standard. So, but I'm just using alternative for lack of a more commonly used term. But anyway, why do you think, or do you think that restorative justice or the processes, circle process like what we talked about today, is a good option, or how harm really should be addressed as opposed to prison?
I don't want to go too far into like the transformative aspect, because, you know, restorative justice, transformative justice, they do have a different line that they move on, although they're very similar, where restorative is empathy, is more centered on being empathetic, empathy, and then transformative justice is more about accountability. And the only reason why I say that, because, you know, the state created this, like you said, in a short amount of time. This is a young nation. For anybody that don't understand, you know, America being 500, 400, 300 years old, whatever you want to say the start date is, it's a young nation. A lot of things that we think are mainstays, like you said, are not mainstays. They're new, like really, really new, as far as like how long humans been on this planet, how long we've been dealing with issues of reciprocity, you know. So I think that it works because it goes back to restoring something. Like, something is broken, something is taken, and as a community we agree on a way to take what you need and leave the rest.
I think restorative justice is very personal, and I think that's why it works so well. I feel like when we let the courts handle it, we kind of run from our problems. We don't get a chance to face them directly. But you can't run if the person is sitting right in front of you, forcing you to see what you've done and admit your mistakes.
I feel like it's very trauma based, feel me, getting to the root of a trauma and learning that everything revolves around trauma, whether you know it or not. I feel like that's good for the community, families, and then put it in a circle and figure some things out.
But nah, I feel like restorative justice in the circle, for me at least, it's important. And I second everything everybody said, especially having someone come to the space and we all acknowledge, okay, what happened here and how can we move forward so we all not worrying about this months, years in advance. But for me, restorative justice allows everyone involved, all parties that acknowledge what harm was caused and how we can repair as a community, whereas though the criminal legal system is very punitive, right? So when if we, like the situation you was explaining, if that person was just all right, send it to the courts, get that young man arrested, he wouldn't have found that passion for culinary, he wouldn't have found those other things that he aspires to and say, I want to do this for myself. He would have just got arrested, he would have been in there either, hanging out with the hooligans, or he would have been reading. It go one or two ways when you're incarcerated. I think a few of us know that. So I think it allow our young people and just anybody to see other options and other solutions other than what we are known for. Oh yeah, let's run it this way, my bad. Always left.
Kind of like what everybody said, but it does gives you the chance to listen to everybody's perspective and get to understand why they did what they did. And then...
How many people in here been in a courtroom before? All right. We know what that process is like. You go in a courtroom, you can't even say hi to each other. You can't even speak. You got to be quiet. And it's divided. The person who was harmed is on this side with their main supporters. The person who caused the harm is on that side with their supporters. There's literally a fence right there, whether it's made of wood or whatever, because that's separating everybody from what's going on in the court. And what's going on in the court is about the people on this side, and the people on this side is separated from it, about what's going on about them. The only voices is being heard is a prosecutor and an attorney arguing for or against either side, and somebody sitting literally at a higher altitude than everybody else judging. And the only time you have a voice is when you're called on to testify. Once you finish testifying, you're told to sit, be silent, right? And then whether the case is won or lost, from whoever perspective, winning or losing is, everybody's dispensed with. Everybody's dispensed with. Case is closed. Folks that the only voices that was heard, they collect their checks. You know what I'm saying? No one is checked up on, certainly not the person harmed, even though they saying that, yeah, this is about representing the interests of the victim. No one is checked up on later to see it years later or weeks later or months later to see how they're healing and recovering from the trauma of what happened, right? Meanwhile, violence and victimization continues to rage on in our community with no solution or end or hope in sight, right? Whereas on the opposite side, in this process, you come in here, everybody's facing each other, ain't no separation, everybody has a voice, right? The person that's harmed gets an opportunity to address the person to their face who harmed them, so it removes the fear. It's a way for them to regain their confidence and rewrite the narrative of their harm, which is why we don't use terms like victim or offender, right? We don't use those terms because we don't reduce or relegate people in this process to the worst thing that they did or the worst thing that happened to them, right? Each person is more than that. And we don't operate according to the victim-offender binary where you're either on this side or the other side, because sometimes apologies got to go both ways. And even with the person harmed, most people that victimize others have been victimized themselves at some point. And so all of those things are considered, right? And this process is based on humanity, it's based on repairing relationships, it's based on keeping the community tight, whereas the courts is just making sure that the law is upheld, right? So there's fundamentally different questions that are asked by the state and by restorative justice when a harm happened. When a harm happens, the state asks what laws were broken. Restorative justice asks who was harmed, because it's about the person. Who was hurt? The state asks what laws were broken. See, because for the state, the law is the victim, not the person. The law is the victim. The next question the state asks is, who did it? Restorative justice asks, what are their needs? The state asks, what punishment does that person deserve? Restorative justice asks, whose obligation is it to meet those needs? When a harm happens for the state, that harm or violation is about blame, it's about guilt, that's what it creates. For restorative justice, it's about obligations. If you hurt somebody, then you're obligated, you're indebted to making things right with them. For the state, once you hurt somebody, you're obligated to the state. Even though you didn't even hurt the state, you hurt this person, you're obligated to the state. You know what I mean? And so I just wanted to lift that up. It's a fundamental difference between how the court operates and how restorative justice operates. And even for serious cases like homicides, I think that restorative justice is better equipped to address those issues because it fosters transformation, it fosters healing, and real accountability, right? Real accountability is, the state says it holds people accountable. You can't hold anybody accountable because accountability comes from inside the person. You know what I mean? That has to require that person's agency and their desire to repair the harm and make things right. You wanted to add something to that though, right, Britt? Did you want? Did you go already?
Yeah, I went before you, but
okay. All right.
Yeah, we're gonna close out in a moment.
We on time, right? This is time, right, Gabby?
Yeah, we about to ease into the closing.
We're gonna ease into the closing.
Get some final thoughts, and let's get Ruin add some piggyback on
Ru.
what you said.
One is the state values capital. That was the laws broken, but those laws are based on monetary determination. So whenever we in the courtroom, it's a bunch of people getting paid off of that process. So it's very much about capital. So that's one of the reasons why it can't really work for you, because it's not intended to work actually for the person, the victim or the person who was a victim that led you into being the perpetrator or the offender. And then the other thing was doing diversion. A lot of times we do diversion without the state ever being involved. And I know you have done it. I know a lot of folks have done circles in communities, and folks came to those circles, and because of the information, the resources, or whatever it was, that actually diverted them. They met somebody that they linked up with, or they got some information that they went and got. So I lean towards it more over the state, because I've actually seen it work where the state wasn't even involved with an arrest first, where folks from the community came to the circles for whatever reason, and that circle diverted them, like I said, with information, with community, with meeting somebody that might have been an elder to them or whatever the case may be. So that's another reason why I lean heavy towards doing restorative justice. And restorative justice is culture. Like, it's culture. Like, that safe space thing is something that we want to put in young folks as young as little bro in there, where it's like, if something is going on, a circle can help you rectify it.
I'm glad you lifted that up, Nina, because it's an adversarial process. It's a competitive process. The court system is. So it's definitely about who wins and who loses. I got one more question, Britt. It's got to ask this question. Now, I got to ask this to the group. Now, you're going to hear naysayers, people who are proponents or they advocate for the system's way of doing things, and they're skeptics or they're doubtful or they don't believe in restorative justice. They're going to say, restorative justice is just some new soft on crime process. You just being soft. What would your answer to them be about people claiming that restorative justice processes is soft or easy? Uh-oh, I see some hands going up.
I couldn't provide like specific examples, but I do know just from looking around and like researching myself that in other countries, they already are moving towards that, and their prison system is not like ours at all, and it works. And their statistics aren't the same. So obviously, like, if it keeps happening here and we keep having repeat offenders, then maybe it's not just the offenders that are the problem.
For sure. I would have to say to the naysayers and folks like that is restorative justice, circle process as a whole, is rooted in accountability and in healing. So I wouldn't say it's soft on crime because we asked them, who was harmed? What are your needs? Those needs could be, I need 4,000 bands. Those needs could be, we need to squabble up. Those needs could be, we need to have more conversations involved in this. It could be an art piece. It can be anything that person need, and that additional person is willing to negotiate and say, hey, I acknowledge I did this to you. Let me meet your needs. So that's what I love about Circle. It's individualized for whoever is in that space, whatever harm was caused, and is, like I said, rooted in accountability and also healing.
I mean, I wasn't gonna say nothing, but since you passed, nah. The one of the biggest things I say is like history. Just actually start reading history about crime and punishment in America. Why is it a consistent thing of crime in America if this thing works? We've been doing it for enough time. Like, whatever you think of restorative practices, all right, but what you're saying that should keep going, there's more history, data, everything that shows that it doesn't work. So before we even get to what we're going to use, if you're saying that this is soft, let's just get to the part that what you're a proponent of, what you're a supporter of, is proven, like, historically, like, this don't work. Nobody's safer. We're not stopping crime. We're not stopping violence. These things are still happening consistently in America and has since this system started. So for me, that's like my thing. Like, the thing that you rocking with is proven not to work. You know what I mean? And then we can go from there after that.
I would say that maybe the world needs to be softer. I feel like not a lot of people feel loved and heard, and not a lot of people are asked how whatever happened to them directly affected them and what can help them. I feel like it's just very personal. People just need more community, and they just need to feel heard and understood.
I would say 9 times out of 10, when certain things happen in our community, it's really about survival. 9 times out of 10 though, because then you have that 1% that do things because they just do it. But I feel like survival is important, you feel me? So you can't fault somebody for trying to survive because that's all they know.
Thank you, everybody. It's not easy facing somebody that you did something to, you know, and apologizing. You know, some of us, you know, we ain't talked to certain people in our own family, and don't nobody want to be the first one to pick up the phone and call and say sorry. You know what I mean? It's not easy, it's hard. Restorative justice is not easy. The system is not hard on crime. It's hard on people, it's hard on human beings, but it's not hard on crime. It's antithetical to accountability, actually. It lets people off the hook, just throw you in a cage, you don't have to be accountable, you don't even have to face nothing, you know what I'm saying? Restorative justice, like, nah, let's get to a head of this, face this, let's deal with this. That's not easy, that's not easy. So, yeah, and like you said, sometimes we might need a little softness, right, instead of, anyway, let's close this circle out the right way. First of all, let's do a go around. We're gonna do one more go around, right? And just say a word that sums up what this circle experience was like for you today.
So to sum it up, I would say that the session was intriguing and also somber. And I'm taking away everything, especially the part where we talked about what qualities do we feel like we best possess when we're our best self.
I say it's very powerful and knowledgeable. I took a lot away from this.
I say it was like refreshing, sobering, like to have a conversation like this outside of social media where everyone is just going nuts.
It's always fulfilling because folks need to know about it. So it's always fulfilling.
I feel like it's a reminder for me. Like today was just a reminder of like, again, like our values, my values and how like I actually live in them each day. So a reminder.
The conversation was very nourishing. I feel like it fed my mind, and I just feel my brain feels heavier.
With me, it just made me question myself a little bit. I don't really want to get too deep into it though.
I feel like the circle is like trauma-based therapy. Like whether it was me or somebody in the circle, somebody feel better about themselves or realize the trauma that they have and know how to deal with it now.
Going through the energy for me, I felt community, I felt understood, and I just felt great hearing what everybody had to say and hearing what the people felt. I just want to thank everybody for pulling up on us. What you guys don't know is everybody in this circle is restorative justice practitioners in their own right. We got some teenagers in the building. We got some young adults, some older adults. We got, this an intergenerational circle we got going on. And just to close out once again, thank you everybody for joining us. Uncaged Potential Justice from the Ground Up. I know that's right.
Thank you. Thank you.